Football fans talk about transfer fees too much, when in reality, wages should be the focus of attention. Because it's wages that really determine the flexibility that football clubs have, not just for current transfers, but future ones too. Here's why. When a football club pays a transfer fee for a player, that amount is amortized, split over the duration of the signed player's contract. And that is the amount that's reflected in the financials for each year. This is therefore also what factors into financial fair play calculations and determines subsequent financial flexibility for the club. Let's take Harry Kane's transfer to Bayern as an example. Bayern signed him for around £100 million on a 4-year contract, meaning that the annual amortized amount would be roughly £25 million. His wages at Bayern are roughly £400,000 per week, or approximately £21.5 million per year. This wage amount is comparable to his transfer fee and roughly doubles the impact on overall squad cost. Now, one of the popular questions of the summer transfer window was why Manchester United chose to sign Rasmus Højlund for £72 million when Harry Kane, a proven Premier League goalscorer and one of the best finishers in the world, was available for just an extra £30 million. And further, if that £30 million is amortized, it translates to about £6 or £7 million per year, right? Well, let's look at the maths a little more closely. Rasmus Højlund was signed on a 5-year contract, meaning his amortized transfer fee is roughly £14 million per year. His wages are about 1/5 of Kane's, meaning he earns about £4.5 million per year. This leads to an annual cost of about £18.5 million for United. Harry Kane's annual cost to Bayern is an amortized transfer fee of £25 million and wages of £21.5 million. Leading to a total cost of £46.5 million. Now, this is a good £28 million more each year than what Rasmus Højlund costs United. While the annual transfer fee impact was only an additional £11 million each year, the wage difference accounted for a whopping additional £17 million in annual cost. In 4 years, Bayern will also have a striker problem to solve once again, while United might have found their centre forward for the next decade and a half, and that makes the difference more stark. Now, whether Kane could have enabled United to win a Premier League or Champions League title, and therefore the delta in cost is more than justified, remains debatable. It cannot be argued, however, that the wage delta far outweighs the transfer fee delta in this case, and significantly changes the impact on annual cost of the club. So let's take another example, and a rather popular one. Chelsea's aggressive spending. It's baffled multiple fans and analysts. How did they manage to spend so heavily yet again on Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia, Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson, among others? Chelsea have now spent over €1 billion in 3 transfer windows following the takeover by Todd Boehly and Clearlake Capital. So how can they do this and not violate FFP? It's a big topic, but one of the keys was offloading players on huge wages, even at the cost of accepting low transfer fees. Now, much was made of Chelsea's sales this summer to Saudi Arabian football clubs and the FFP flexibility that it enabled, specifically those of Edouard Mendy, Kalidou Koulibaly and N'Golo Kante. But Chelsea can easily argue that the transfer fees they recouped are fair market value. However, it's the wage impact of offloading these players that is what truly created the FFP flexibility. N'Golo Kante was on £290,000 per week, or roughly £15 million per year. Koulibaly's wages were even higher, at £295,000 per week, and Mendy's salary was smaller at £3 million per year. But the wages for those 3 players alone created nearly £35 million of annual cost manoeuvrability, even without factoring in the transfer fees. If we now consider Chelsea's transfer of Moises Caicedo for £115 million on an 8.5-year contract, it's an annual amortization of about £13.5 million. His wages are roughly £150,000 per week, or around £8 million per year. Chelsea could technically afford to sign 2 Moises Caicedos by offloading Mendy, Koulibaly and Kante. 2 other players offloaded for 0 transfer fees, but who were on massive wages, were Cesar Azpilicueta and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Their combined annual wages were about £18 million, so their transfers also created significant FFP flexibility, despite bringing in 0 in transfer fees. The impact of wages is also how Barcelona have been able to navigate La Liga FFP in recent seasons. For example, offloading the retired Gerard Piqué, Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets this summer enabled the signings of Ilkay Gundogan, Oriol Romeu, Joao Cancelo, Inigo Martinez and Joao Felix. Overall, given how player wages have grown, the impact of wages on FFP and financial flexibility for football clubs is increasingly comparable, and often outweighs the impact of transfer fees. So next time you hear transfer fees referenced in the context of FFP, remember to factor in wages. The perception of the deal might change entirely.